All right, and we are live. I'd like to welcome everybody to a special live broadcast on my channel. I've got Dr. Sean Stephenson. I'm going to grab your bio and read that off to everybody so they get a bit of frame of who you are. Dr. Sean Stephenson was predicted not to survive at birth because of a rare bone disorder that stunted his growth and caused his bones to be extremely fragile, fracturing over 200 times by the age of 18. Despite his challenges, he took a stand for a quality of life that has inspired millions of people around the world. Over the past 24 years, his powerful message has been heard at live events in nearly 50 states and in 16 countries. Sean has presented at hospitals, universities, prisons, and to companies such as Nike, Whole Foods, Zappos, Walmart, and Sharp Healthcare. He shared the stage with U.S. presidents, billionaire business moguls, celebrities, and His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. Sean has appeared on everything from the Oprah Winfrey Show to Jimmy Kimmel, in addition to online videos with tens of millions of views. The Biography channel produced an hour-long feature on his life called The 3-Foot Giant. His international best-selling book, Get Off Your Butt, has been translated into over a dozen different languages. As a board certified therapist and doctor of clinical hypnosis, Dr. Stephenson sees clients in a unique 12-hour session that gets to the root of their fears, excuses, and insecurities. Each year, Sean hosts live events and group coaching programs to mentor individuals in the art of business and public speaking. When Sean isn't working, he can be found at the gym, watching basketball, or reading side by side with his wife, Mindy Niss. Is it Niss or Kniss?
Kniss.
Kniss. Sean and Mindy reside in Scottsdale, Arizona. Sean, I want to thank you for joining me today, brother.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So the last time we chatted, it was at an event in 2010 in Costa Rica called Awesomeness Fest. It was put on by a mutual friend, Vishen Lakiani, and that was his first go at it. And you had such a profound talk that day in Costa Rica. I think there was a good number of people when I was looking around the audience that were practically in tears with some of the stuff that you talk about. And I have linked your TED Talk during one of our live broadcasts in the past, which you basically talk about taking ownership in your life. Can you kind of explain what that TED Talk was about, like what was behind it?
Sure. Well, first of all, the unique aspect of that TED Talk was it was in a maximum security prison. So that was really interesting, that the audience was truly a captive audience and phenomenal. One of my favorite audiences of all time, doing this for 24 years. And I got up there, didn't plan what was going to come out of my mouth, which is not usual protocol. Normally, I have pretty much a script that I've been developing over the years to make my points and tell my stories. But this one, I just let it flow out of me. And the majority of that talk, it was a few years ago, but from what I recall, it was all about being responsible for your own reality, meaning you can choose to be miserable outside of these walls, considering yourself a free man, or you could be completely at peace inside these walls as a prisoner of the state. And I said that I have met men that are billionaires that live in beautiful mansions that are more imprisoned than you need to be. And it was all about not being a victim and becoming addicted to the most addictive substance on the planet, in my opinion, and that is pity. And so we talked a lot about pity in that presentation, and the reception was phenomenal. I spent the rest of the afternoon having lunch with many of the prisoners, one-on-one, talking to them about their lives and what got them there and who they have become in the process. And that was by far in the top 3 most influential presentations in my life.
You've had this condition of yours since birth. What's it called again?
It's called osteogenesis imperfecta, just a Latin name for a bone gene imperfection, also known as brittle bones disorder.
Yeah, and this is something that can kick it. I mean, you said on your talk, or I don't know, we might have been chatting over dinner or something social out of the event, but I think you said that like you can actually break your bones from sneezing, right?
Yeah, it was worse when I was younger. Before I went through puberty, the bones were even more fragile. But yeah, I've fractured over 200 times. I've had pretty much almost every major bone in the body fractured a few times, and it's something that oftentimes wipes people out. very early on in their life that they never make it through birth, and if they do, they usually don't make it to full life, um, lifespan. But I've been giving the Grim Reaper a run for his money.
Well, you gave the Grim Reaper a run for his money. I think you also said that you outlived all the doctors that said that you weren't going to live much more than a few days after you were born, too, right?
Correct. And I always say on stage, when I was born, doctor said I wasn't going to make it for the first 24 hours, but now all those doctors are dead. And the audience always, jumps to their feet or starts cheering and applauding. And that goes over really well everywhere but at hospitals. There's very few laughs there.
Yeah. So one of the things that we talk a lot about on our live broadcasts, and even with the content that I've been uploading with my channel, just to give you a little more frame, because we were talking a little bit before we came on, I started this channel basically interviewing entrepreneurs and their success rides, and they were telling a lot of the stories that they had to deal with to overcome obstacles in their life, adversity. One of the guys that I interviewed, he was talking about if he were to write a book about his life, he could call it The Biggest Loser sort of thing. And that's one thing that I found common with entrepreneurs. And then I started kind of moving through my own life's journey. This was about 4 years ago. I started the channel, and I kind of went through this unplugging myself, and I needed to reconcile discrepancies in my life that had to deal with my divorce, stuff that was going on in my own business, a heart shatter from a heartbreak. And I kind of pivoted to talking more about navigating life a little bit more, becoming a better version of yourself. And people started asking me a lot more questions about how do you become better with women? What are the kinds of women to avoid dating? How do you attract better women? How do you get higher quality women? So on and so forth. And there's a good part of the conversation that comes out often where people don't take ownership for their lives, and they tend to make excuses, if you will. I'm going to call them excuses. I mean, other people might call them something else, but I think your book is called Get Off Your Butt, B-U-T, not B-U-T-T. How did you let go of your physical restrictions in your own life to get to where you're at? I mean, you're highly successful. You're paid a ton of money to appear on stage and speak in front of people. You've worked in the office of the president, I believe, right?
Correct.
Yeah, like you've ticked off a lot of boxes that most people just don't get to in their lives. What did you have to do internally? Like what was a drive for you there?
So I just want to clear up any misconception in the listener that I oftentimes have to face when people hear my bio, and that is I didn't make a shift one day and then overcome all my insecurities, fears, and excuses. It's a day-to-day process. And, I tell people that, but I don't think it fully registers that I'm still faced with the challenges of my container. I'm still faced with days where I think, shit. I remember a couple of years ago, I turned to my wife in bed and we were about to fall asleep, and I'm like, damn it. It'd be so much easier to run my business if I could walk. And she just laughed and she's like, where'd that come from? Because that's not something I would normally say. But I was just thinking about like all the things that I needed to do that next day and running around. And instead I had to have my assistant or somebody else there with me to help me out. And just thinking how it would be quicker to just do it if I had a normal body. And so, I mean, I still face the challenges. I still face moments where I emotionally get knocked down and feel like, why me? What did I ever do to deserve this? So it's not like I arrived because of an epiphany and then I never looked back. Just so we're clear on that. And then if I look at it about specifically, like, how do I deal with it on a day-to-day over all these years to check all those success boxes? I think the biggest thing is at some point I just realized this wasn't going to change. And then I asked myself, all right, so what can I have with the container I'm in? And I was like, all right, well, with the container I'm in, I could still make money. And that's awesome because that grants me freedoms. I can still use my voice and communicate my point clearly. I still have access to all my mental faculties. I can put ideas into the fabric of the human society and race, and so I can spread messages. If anything, I started to change the way over time I interpreted my condition as a disadvantage to an advantage. I started to look at all the things that my container offered me that other people's containers don't. So, like when I roll into a room, I always joke, I say, I'm like herpes to the soul. You can't scrub me from your mind. You can't get rid of Sean Stephenson in your memory bank easily. And because of that, that's an advantage for marketing. That's an advantage for impacting people and transformation opportunities for others. And so I just started to see that as a huge advantage in my life. I started to become obsessed, and I use that word properly. I became obsessed with psychology and the unconscious and conscious mind interaction. I started becoming obsessed with understanding human behavior and dynamics. What pushes somebody away? What breaks rapport and what builds and brings them back into your life? What are the aspects of humor? Because I found that the people that were funny never got kicked out of the party. They got in trouble, but they didn't get kicked out of the party because they were too valuable of a resource, because they relieved stress in a group or an organization. So I just started working on all the things that I did have control over. And I stopped obsessing over all the things that I didn't have control over. I was never going to get the kind of girl who wanted some kind of physical 6'7" Adonis. I wasn't gonna get that girl. And I'm like, but there's, you know, billions of women on this planet. I don't need to have every single one of them. I need to have the right match. I need to have the one that I feel like Adonis. I feel like a god when I'm around her. I feel valued and attracted, and that I can look at her and know that she's making me a better person in terms of her stand for me and my purpose and path. You know, it's the cheesy cliche of like 1+1 = 11. And so I just got to work on all my skill sets and my social skills, and I don't stop. You know, now I'm really focusing in on new aspects of my personality, and just every time I want to get to another level, I got to face another internal devil.
Yeah. One of the things I noticed, if I can hold up a mirror and kind of reflect back when we met in Costa Rica, Mindy always looked at you like you were this freaking giant, even though you're not. I mean, you're physically 3 feet tall in a wheelchair, but she always looked at you like you were something great. So do you still do these 12-hour therapy sessions?
At times, I do them far less now. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was on a bus ride. I think we were going to a dinner or a beach party or something, and I was sitting beside somebody on the bus that was telling me that they sat through like a 12-hour session with you, and they got so much value out of it, like, just going on and on about it. What do you, or what did you normally see when you were doing those regular sessions? With men especially, because I mean, most of my audience, 90% of it's probably men 25 to 35, that would like to have greater success, greater interaction with women, be more intimate, sort of thing. What is the common denominator, or the thing that holds these guys back from actually doing better, from actually becoming a better version of themselves, from, being happy and finding that contentment when it comes to women? Because so many guys just make all these excuses, right? I mean, I find anyway, it's, oh, I'm not tall enough, my nose is too big, I don't have enough hair on my head's the wrong shape if I try to shave it. And I just look at them sometimes and I'm like, well, I'm bald and I've got third-degree scars on both my arms, my neck, and my chest. Like, what's your excuse, sort of thing?
Yeah, so the common denominator, it's all humans, not just men in search of a better relationship life. Is that human beings oftentimes feel like they're just not enough. And I know that's boiling it down to a really simple level, but when you feel like you're not enough, when you feel like you were born into this world at a disadvantage, that somebody else got better cards dealt to them than you did, that becomes a part of your identity. And when you just keep going about reinforcing that identity, see, I knew it, I'm stupid. See, I knew it, I'm ugly. See, I knew it, I'm whatever. I'm ridiculous. I'm unattractive. Name it. And when you have that a part of your identity, then you go out and you just You just gather evidence to prove that it's true. And as long as that identity is present, nothing I can say or do is going to make a lasting impact. That's why I go right after the identity and I say, you know, who chose that? Who told you you need to believe that? Who told you that that's the way it is? How do you know that you're right about that? What if you were wrong? What would it look like if you were wrong? You know, it's a long series of deep questions and challenging every little angle. But, you know, I find that a lot of human beings that I've worked with, they came in working hard to sell me on their limitations, sell me on why they suck, sell me on why they could never have what they want. And my mentality is, look, as long as you're going to be on the side of why you suck, how can we make any progress? You got to at least meet me on the side of you don't want to believe that anymore, that you want to challenge that, that you believe there is something else for you. Um, I don't do well with Eeyores anymore. You know, the old Winnie the Pooh character, the one that's like, oh, why bother? And, you know, somebody took my tail and I can't, and, you know, they dropped their head down and my mom said I wasn't going to amount to anything. And I'm like, you're a grown ass man. You know, look at me in the eyes. Speak to me as if you want me to hear you. Teach me how to treat you. Because the way you're teaching me right now is to see you as scum, to see you as a waste of space. So no wonder you keep pushing away the money, the women, the health, because you would rather be right that you're miserable and not worthy of good things than your dreams. You would rather be right than happy. You'd rather be right than in love. You'd rather be right than in shape. And I really push back, and I tell them I'm like a defense attorney for their greatness. They put themselves, their ego, their fear, put themselves on trial. Tried to give them a death sentence or a life sentence of being internally imprisoned. And my mentality is, all right, let's go after, let's build you an incredible case and see if we can get you out of here, because this is bullshit and you're the one that's telling this story.
Yeah, and you know, I see all these comments on my videos. Like, I know you've got a YouTube channel. I don't think you update or upload that much.
Yeah, I haven't used much of my YouTube in a few years. We switched over a lot to Facebook, and now we're starting to come back to it.
Yeah, so you know, you can check out his YouTube channel. It's under his name, but you probably noticed that there's a lot of comments that pile in through there daily, and you get messages and emails. And I mean, the common theme is I've got this problem, and they focus on nothing but the problem. But they don't go looking for the solution. Like, why do you think people fixate so much on, you know, whatever obstacles in their way? You know, Ryan Halliday wrote that book, The Obstacle Is the Way. I know you're familiar with his work.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, why do people focus so much on the obstacle rather than removing it or finding a way to use it to their advantage?
Because it's easier.
It's lazy, right?
It's a lot easy. It's a lot easier to say there's nothing I can do. It's a lot easier to just fold your cards than to see how it plays out. You know,
do you think that men have the burden of performance in life?
Men have the burden of performance. Say more to that.
It's been described as men have the burden in performance to do like for men to do great things. You know, for us to have landed on the moon, for us to have hopped on the wooden boats and crossed the Atlantic Ocean a few hundred years ago with canvas sails and populate the North American continent. We took tremendous risks. It's men that had this burden of performance. In today's world, you know, I see a lot of guys that don't take ownership. They don't feel like they want to execute on the burden of performance. It's almost like it's easier to crawl into a ball and not do, and find, you know, it's a saying, you know, if something drops in your way that's preventing you from getting to what you want, it's almost like it's a test, you know, to see how bad you wanted it. Is this like a psychological change we're seeing nowadays in the last, you know, 20, 30 years? Like, it just seems like men have become softer and weaker, and they take less ownership for their lives.
Well, I think it's a bit of a pendulum. I think nothing in life is a steady climb and gradual. I think it's back and forth. I think as a society, there's a big group of men that were raised only with a feminine energy around them. And in that regard, maybe they're more emotionally perceptive than their fathers were, but they're also uh, maybe a lot more testicularly challenged. They don't have the balls to make decisions and to carry the brunt of the responsibility for their consequences and such. So there's that component that is certainly in play. But I do believe that life is, if you've ever heard of the pendulum theory, that every 25 years or so that we go back and forth between different modalities as a society, especially it's cultural and country based and everything like that. But I don't necessarily believe that we've grown weaker and that it's not gonna get better. I think that I think we're the best guy that I've heard talk about this was Richard Dawkins, and he said, I always get the two Dawkins, the self-esteem guy. Is that Richard Dawkins?
I'm not familiar with him.
Yeah, and he said that evolution is not a staircase; it's a kaleidoscope, and that every time you turn, some things fall into place and some things fall out of place. And so, as a society, in some ways, men are far more evolved than they used to be, and in other ways, we've devolved. And I think that's also just a part of life, that as any species evolves, some things fall away and some things fall together, and that's just a part of the climb, if you will. But when I look at all the men I've worked with over the years that have been really plagued by their own internal demons, I finally figured out a formula that I tell them, if you follow this formula, success is inevitable for you in any area. It's not going to be easy. So don't come back to me saying, well, you said this would work. Yeah, I said it would work, but I also said it was going to be hard as hell. And I'm happy to share that formula with you because I think
let's dive into it.
Yeah. So the first part of the formula is a man needs to have impeccable self-care. And I am so retentive about my self-care that I carry with me a journal that has all of my self-care actions, for making sure I'm hydrating enough, to making sure I'm getting my exercise in, make sure I'm reading, making sure that I'm spending time in nature, that I'm connecting with my wife, that I'm reaching out to my friends, that I'm connecting with my mentors, that I'm connecting with my apprentices. And I have all these lists of actions that are improving my self-care. And then I have all the things for my mission, all the things of my purpose that I need to, hopping on podcasts, writing new content, creating more videos to go viral, creating more books and programs, doing certain marketing research, learning new concepts myself in business. And in this personal and professional self-care, I'm on top of it. And I found that when you have impeccable self-care, your insecurities remain dormant and you aren't eaten alive because you're developing momentum. One of my friends talks about how entrepreneurs need momentum more than anything, that when we feel we're progressing, we feel unstoppable. But when we don't see movement, when we don't see progress, we question, what the hell are we doing here? So first part of the formula is you got to have impeccable self-care. So that means, what is it on your list? Everybody's list is going to be different. Do you need to spend time on the beach? Do you need to meditate? Do you need to pray? Do you need to hang out with your dog? Do you need to see your buddies? What is it? And put that list together. And then the more of those things on your list that you can get checked off in the day, the better of a day you're going to have, because you can't control what's happening outside of you in this lifetime, but you have full control over what's happening internally based on this formula that I put together, and that is impeccable self-care. Second is, you need to align with your life purpose. And that means you need to go find it or create it. And the life purpose is, what's something bigger than you that you are living for? Is it raising money for kids with cancer? Is it being a teacher and helping the students in your class? Is it being a movement for equality? Whatever it is, you need a bigger mission than just your own personal pleasures and desires and personal goals. You need something bigger to tap into that gets you out of bed. I call it getting, your God's caffeine in the morning, where you're like, all right, I'm doing my life for more than just me. And that's why I believe I'm still on this planet. Is I didn't just stick around through all the physical pain that I've gone through, and the ridicule and the teasing that I went through growing up. I didn't go through it on accident. I went through it because I'm here for a bigger purpose. That's my belief. And when I align with my self-care and my life purpose, then the last part of the formula that I teach the guys is, you need an empowering environment. You need to remove every single person, place, or thing that is causing you to question your own worth, that is tearing you down, that is denying you of your self-worth, and stepping in your way and holding you back. And so you need an incredible empowering environment. So like, I used to live in Chicago. The weather was not empowering to me. In the winter, I hated life. The clouds would roll in, the heavy pressure, the winters, and it didn't empower me at all. And so I up and moved to Arizona. I don't mind the heat. I actually appreciate seeing the sun almost every single day. So I changed my physical environment. I removed myself from friends and family that weren't going to treat me at a level of respect that I deserve and desire. I removed myself, and I had hard, painful breakups from people that couldn't meet my expectations of how I want to be treated, and respect my boundaries of what was important to me. And so this whole formula, the 3 parts, is self-care, impeccable self-care, get connected to your life purpose, and only surround yourself with empowering environments. And I found when people do all 3 of those things, it's like being unstoppable is inevitable. You cannot stop somebody on that, because each one of those creates this momentum. And anytime I feel stuck or screwed in life, I just go back to that formula, and it always pulls me out.
Yeah, that's some powerful shit. I mean, I can cut that 10 minutes of the video and just end it at that, and that'll be gold for everybody. So when it comes to letting go of negative environments and places and people and all that sort of stuff, a lot of challenges come from people, and they'll go, oh, well, it's my family, sort of thing, or I've known them since grade 8 sort of thing. Yeah. What's your response to that?
I haven't talked to my family in over a year. I love them, but there's aspects of my family that I'm just like, look, I'm going to live my life on my terms. I was raised very religious, and I didn't agree over time with a lot of their belief systems. But that was a point of contention. There were lots of things over the years that we couldn't see eye to eye on, and they couldn't let me live my own life. And I said, I love you, but if you're not going to meet the way I feel I should be treated, then you're going to have to love me from a distance. And I removed myself from my family. Doesn't mean I'll never talk to them again. It just means some people need to be put on the bench, and some people need to have the courage and the decisiveness to do so. I've cut friends out. I've cut previous lovers out of my life that they were toxic. And when they were warned, hey, this is not how I will be treated, and they wouldn't heed the warnings, then I had to have the painful conversation within myself saying, can you live with the pain of missing them over top of the pain of living with them? And, when somebody's like, oh, they're family, I think family ends at abuse. I think family ends at toxic behavior. And I don't care what your biology says. I do believe that every human being should be treated with the respect that they deserve and desire. And if they can't handle that, then they're going to have to miss you.
Interesting. Love it. So we've got an hour booked for this. I've got a couple of questions here in my list that I want to throw at you before we maybe open it up to the people watching and invite them to ask a few questions. So I've got this guy who's part of my private men's community. He says, "Hey, Richard, it's something coming out for me." So he's got a disability. He uses a walker to walk around like elderly people do. He's 30 years old, follows advice, but my experience is that women find me because of my handicap undesirable as a partner. I think they only see me as a nice guy. Would you do me a favor and ask Sean in your interview if he has any idea how to handle such situations? Yeah, so that's his question. He's actually got a picture of the walker as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, here's the thing. He's got to change his own view of himself first. And what I mean by that is if he doesn't find himself attractive, there's no way in hell any woman could, because we teach people how to treat us based on how we see ourselves. And, I counseled this guy once, and hopefully this will help that gentleman who was blind. And he was like, look, I can't read their nonverbal language. I don't know if they're taking me seriously or if they're disgusted with me. And I said, why can't you look at the advantage of being blind instead of the disadvantage? Just play along with me. And I said, I'm going to pretend like you and I had this swap for a while. And now I'm you. And how would I create attraction as you? And he said, okay. And I said, I would immediately strike up a conversation with a woman. And I'd say, hey, can you settle something from within me? And then the woman would be like, well, what do you mean? And well, because I can't see you. The only way I know what you look like is to touch your face. And I know that might sound weird, but do you mind if I touch your face? And unless she's just a really uncomfortable, mean human being, more than likely she'll put your hands on her face and then just kind of smile and say, I was right. And then she'll say, about what? And then say, you're beautiful. And just enter into that dialogue of it doesn't matter what you take away from a man, he still gets to have that drive of creating attraction. You could burn him, you could break his back, you could shrink him, you could put him into a walker, you could take away his ability to talk. But if he's got that internal desire to see himself as attractive and feel that he is worthy of being seen as attractive, he can get very, very creative. I mean, the late Stephen Hawking, he had like 3 wives or something. I mean, he went through lots of different relationships. And you could say, oh, well, he was one of the most brilliant men on the planet. But still, he had to use his mind to create attraction even. And so the walker just could be a conversation piece. And if you have a fun sense of humor and you're not bothered by it, then she will follow suit. The problem is if you're ashamed of the walker, if you're ashamed of being blind, burned, not tall enough, bald, whatever it may, if you're ashamed of something, that shame is sorry to sound woo-woo, but that is a frequency that emanates from within you that says, hey, just so you know, I don't find myself attractive. So if you can agree with me, that keeps me safe and in my comfort zone. And then I won't be mad at you for rejecting me because we'll have this agreement that it was the walker, not because I'm a creepy motherfucker. Like, not because I did anything. We're just going to blame the walker. And, I say this with love, but the walker doesn't offend anybody. The walker doesn't disgust anybody. It's the shame of the walker that does.
Yeah. Okay. So I got another one here. A guy named Pete in my community as well. He says, "What have you learned to be the key to happiness in life?"
Progress, growth. Every day, seeing a little bit more done on your dreams, more work completed. I find that it's got to be something that you have control over. I care more about how much money I asked for in a year than how much money I made. I care because I have control over that. I care far more about what I am initiating on this planet, not necessarily what is being reflected back. Again, you don't have control over the external world. You only have influence over it, but you have full control over your own internal dialogue. And you have your full control over your own interpretations and responses to what is happening. So the key to happiness to me is fulfillment and progress, things that I have control over.
I'm gonna rephrase this next question that I've got. When you despair, how do you put yourself back in check to get yourself back going on your purpose?
Yeah, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but I go back to my self-care list. And I find that when I'm in despair, it's because I've ignored my self-care list. So the one thing I didn't mention that this will make more sense, hopefully, is at the end of the day, I score my overall mood in that self-care list, 0 out of 10. At the top of the day, I put the number so that I can then look down at how many boxes got ticked off, checked off from doing them. And inevitably, my mood is based on how much self-care I did. If I have a shitty couple of days where it's like a 6 out of 10, a 5 out of 10, a 4 out of 10, it's because I ignored these things like getting good rest, hydrating, exercising, spend time with good friends, reading good books, being out in nature. When you don't take care of yourself, the demons start to show up and things start to feel like you're in that despair. And so what I do is I get back to my self-care list. I don't even see my mood anymore as some kind of elusive, evasive ghost. I know very clearly where it comes from. So I just get back on the self-care list, and I just let my success be inevitable from that.
I'm just going through the questions here on the pop-out chat. There's been a whole bunch of people discussing while we've been rapping back and forth. And yes, this will be available later as a recording on the channel. I linked the Hangout if anybody wants to join us live. Sean will be on for another 30 minutes. So if you have any questions, you can just click it and join us and just ask a question. I got one here. What does he say? Who do you look up to? Like, who do you look upon as a role model?
I have role models in different areas. I have this group I call my advocate circle. They're people that bring different skill sets into my life. One of my closest mentors who I relocated my business and my life to be near is Joe Polish. He's a zany individual that's a marketing guru, but really when you get down to it, he is a steward for the human race evolution. And he's just taught me so much about responding versus reacting to things in life. So Joe has had an incredible influence over me. Eben Pagan, the David D'Angelo brand. Eben has been a dear friend of mine for about 14 years now. And just learning from him about just most of the time, the pain in your life is because you didn't take a breath and think it through. You just acted from a reactionary space. I totally look up to Eben and what he has built in his life. I have friends in the fitness community. I have friends spiritually that have helped me out. I got to say probably one of the biggest influences on my life as a man is my wife. Mindy holds me to a standard that no one else on this planet probably could, because she sees something in me that is so inspiring to me in what she believes is possible from my impact on this planet, my splash that I can make while I'm here. And she's always holding me to a high level. There are times where I beg her to just let me skate and not do my best. And she just forget about her. She's such a beautiful stand, and I've learned so much about life. Part of my challenge when I was dating was I was looking for a young lady to groom. I was looking for a young lady to take under my wing, and I would teach her the ways of the world while she blew me. And that's not at all what I got, and thank God, because I have such a deeper existence now as a man for having somebody that I'm learning with. I'm learning from her. She's learning from me. But when I bounce something off of her, I call her my unconscious mind. Carl Jung said, you fall in love with your unconscious mind. So if you keep attracting crazy women, there's something going on within you. Because as you evolve yourself, that won't be as attractive to you. So yeah, my wife has been a huge influence in my evolution.
You talked about self-care as one of the three pillars. If you had to pick three items in the self-care category that matter the most to you, what would you suggest that they are?
Consistent and good restful sleep, um, working out, like just truly. I find that if I'm not working out, both mix a good mixture of cardio and weightlifting, I am just run rampant by my emotions. And the third one, it's a most recent one that I've added, which is Kundalini breathing, breath work, yoga, that I find that I can truly get a level of awareness. I've tried several mood altering drugs in my life, and I got to say, breath work is up there with being the most mood altering and awakening things I've ever done.
Are we talking like Kundalini yoga? Does it incorporate deep breathing, kind of like Wim Hof sort of method?
Yep,
Or
exactly.
okay,
Yep.
got it.
Yep.
Got it. All right. Let me go back up here. I think some of these questions guys are throwing at, like, how do you stay focused and motivated when pursuing your goals? I think we kind of hit that with like the three pillars that.
Well, I will say one of the things that I do, one of the things that I can refer to on that is one of my self-care list items is to review my goals every day. So at the front of my notebook, I have all my goals, and they're categorized. And the one thing that I do that I don't see enough people doing, or I can't say I see anyone doing, is I put my very large goals, like owning an NBA team is one of my goals in life. Owning an NBA team on the same level with hiring a marketing director that I'm looking for right now. So it's I try to put all my goals together that may be a 25-year goal or a 2-month goal. I put them all on the same sheet because I want to condition my mind that they're all the same level of importance to me, and that I don't need to see one as like this painful, difficult thing. It's something that I'm working toward all of them. And so I read my goals every single morning when I get my day started, and I'm always looking with my goals to say what's a little nudge that I could do today toward that goal. Like I at the end of last year, I declared that I was going to throw my hat into the arena of comedy, doing stand-up comedy. And I gotta say, I dragged my ass on it for a few months, and I didn't get around to it. And then finally, I had to get some of my advocate circle on board and say, look, I know I need to throw my hat over this fence. What can I do to start the process? And then we got into a dialogue. And next thing you know, they're like, book a date. Where are you going to do your first comedy? And so I did my first stand-up comedy show. The comedy club was sold out, and it went over so well that the comedy club hired me to come back again next month. So that's something that I had to read over and over and over until I finally took action on it. And that's okay. Some goals, maybe you're going to need to read 1,000 times before you do anything on it, but keeping it out of sight is definitely not going to help you.
I want to backtrack a little bit. You're talking about the conversation that you had with Joe Polish, how he was explaining it was responding versus what?
Reacting.
So if you guys are more interested in learning about Joe Polish and the marketing stuff he puts out, he has a podcast.
I Love Marketing.
I Love Marketing. How could I forget that, with Dean Jackson? Great podcast. If you're an entrepreneur and you want to learn more about getting your message in front of people, he was a guy that was a dead broke carpet cleaner and just had to figure out how to market so he could make money. But can you kind of go a little more in depth with that concept that you learned from Joe?
Yeah. So when you react, it's usually purely from the ego. It's purely from a righteousness. I want to make you wrong and bad. I want to position myself above you. I want to punish you. I want to use manipulation tactics like guilt and shaming you. And when you're in that reactive space, you're usually frenetic. Usually your body is kind of shaky. You're quickly doing something because you're going to regret it. So you try to send it off quickly so you don't have to think about it and sleep on it. When you respond, you step away from it and you say, I'm angry right now. This is not a time to do something on this. I want to get a clear head. You may have to take a few nights rest on it. You might want to run it past a few people you admire their opinions. You might want to journal about it. That was one of my self-care activities. I write 3 pages a day in my journal. I think a journal, if every human being had to write 3 pages a day in their journal, the majority of the meds that people are prescribed for their behavior would go down, because you have to audit yourself. You have to even acknowledge yourself. Like, I write down when I'm pissed and when I'm angry, and I'll write down dark fantasies of what I wish I could do. That I give a voice to that reactive, angry, bitchy, fucking mad human being that lives in me. And then when that man gets acknowledged, then it doesn't have power over me. It feels heard. But so the reaction versus the response is doing things to really truly get rooted and grounded again. And that's where my breath work has helped a lot. That's where the gym, when I'm angry, I'll just double down in the gym. And there are days where I will have 4 hours in the gym, and I will, maybe break it into 2-hour workouts. And my mentality is like, okay, fine. If I'm going to be angry and I'm going to want to break things, might as well break down the physical energy that's in my body and make myself stronger tomorrow.
All right, guys, throw your questions in the comments over here. Let me go back through here to see if I've missed anything in the last few minutes. Here's an interesting one. I don't know if you could answer this without contrast, but this question is, do you think his condition made him who he is today, or could he have achieved it without the condition?
Yeah, that's a question I've been contemplating for 39 years. For the times that I had conscious awareness of it. And I've heard both sides debated, and I like both sides. Of course, one side is that my soul was here on a trajectory, and then if this physical abnormality wasn't present, let's say that the collagen had formed properly in inner utero and I had come out normal bone condition, was my soul on this trajectory? Would I have worked at the White House anyway? Would I have married Mindy? Would I have done the things that I've done? I don't know. I can't answer that. I think the logical part of me, and not because that's the spiritual part of me that thinks maybe that was inevitable anyway, but the logical part of me feels like that my condition definitely played a role, but it's not the condition, because I know a lot of people in my condition that are very bitter and they're very excuse driven and feel sorry for me. I know a lot of people that even the disabled community alone don't like me. And because I tell people, I say, only 2% of who I believe I am is even focused on my disability. 98% of who I am is based on my choices, my friends, my self-care, the books I'm reading, the people I'm hanging around with. I only feel about 2% of my life is even consumed by my container. And so is my disability the reason I am the way I am? No, I think it's more, it's my interpretation of my disability. Just like I said about that walker gentleman, the guy with the walker, is the walker is not the issue. The issue is with your issue with the walker.
So we just had somebody join us. They clicked the link. We got a brave guy that has a question for you. Richard, do you want to unmute yourself and ask it? I don't know if you have a mic. Do you have a mic there? No, I got a line through his mic. So he wrote the question in the chat. He says, how do you stop obsessing over things or people that don't care or know you exist?
Too broke for a mic. We're gonna have to work on that, brother. Let's see. How do you stop obsessing over the things or people that don't care or know you exist? Focus on what you want. There's this acronym I use, and I find there's this contrasting acronym. Most people are stuck in the FED, F-E-D. Their fears, their envies, their dislikes. They're focused on what they don't want don't have, don't like. They're obsessed with that. They keep thinking about that. They keep bringing it up. They keep asking this question. They keep asking other people this question. They keep journaling about this question. And when you focus on what you don't want, don't have, don't like, you're going to be miserable. It's an inevitability. You have to focus on what I call the gap, the goals. That's what you do want. Your appreciations. That's what you do have. Your preferences, which is what you do like. Because when you focus on what you do want, do have, and do like, it starts to become self-fulfilling. You know, when I'm focused on my goals, I see like a light at the end of the tunnel calling me. When I focus on my appreciations, I feel like, wow, there's so much that I have here. I have a bracelet that I usually wear, and it's just got all these beads, and I go through, and every bead I think of, you know, what am I grateful for today? And I go all the way around the bracelet. Just, it's a simple little activity of what am I grateful for? And the last one is the preferences. What do I like? You know, what do I like to do? Do I like hot baths? Do I like listening to stand-up comedy before I go to bed? Do I like hanging out with my friends? And sometimes you just need to go back to doing what you like. You know, people oftentimes say, oh, I love travel. When was the last time you traveled? I can't even remember. I love to read. When was the last time you read a book? 2 years ago. Well, why aren't you reading? You know, it's like you got to focus on what do you want, the goals, what do you have, your appreciations, and what do you like. So, like, how do you get over the obsession with what's not working? You start becoming obsessed with what is working. You got to put your reticular activating system, the part of the brain that's like a servo mechanism, that is like a bomb, that it finds like a heat-seeking missile. You have to put the coordinates on those things that you want, have, and like. Become obsessed with that direction. If you're focused on, oh, how am I going to get over this shitty, painful, broken part of me, the more you keep thinking on that, more it's going to expand, the more energy you're going to give it. And I know that sounds easier than said than done, but that's how I've pulled myself out every single time.
So here's a question that comes up a lot that I tend to deal with, and I'm so tempted to answer these myself, but I want to throw these at you. I literally have no idea what I like and where to start. I hope you have some sort of advice on how to find my passion. What are your thoughts on that?
Try different things. You know, I remember when I was a kid, my parents made me try violin. I hated it. I'm glad they made me try it. I'm glad they made me try it. They introduced me to a lot of things. They said, okay, well, what else are you going to do? What else are you going to do? They encouraged both my sister and I both to trying lots of things. I was in choir. I was on the radio. I was on I did television production. I was in acting. I tried a lot of different things, and I'm still out there. You know, people that are miserable, or people that are lost, or people that don't know what they want out of life, they're not curious enough. They're not studying. You know, if I had to be stuck in like a purgatory state and I couldn't leave, it would be a library, because I'd want to just keep studying all the different facets, everything from uh, astronomy to biology to physics to communication to writing, you know, about writing dynamics and copywriting and sales and influence and leadership, and studying aspects of, you know, war and peace. And there's just so much. You got to get really curious. I mean, shit, if you have the ability to hear this, that means you're on some form of technology. Therefore, you have access to Google. That right there, YouTube alone has given you enough material that you could spend the rest of your life watching all the videos and die before you come close to scratching the surface.
Yeah, there's just so much information out there that people can find answers to the questions that they're asking themselves. And I just look at YouTube and Google as a buffet. You know, it's an a la carte. You can kind of pick what you want and leave behind what doesn't serve your belief system, right?
Yeah, and there's a lot of junk out there, but you got to have some contrast to know what is good versus what is bad, and you got to decipher it with your own following up research. But the one thing I don't feel like I've shared on this interview yet that I hope that everybody listening can get, and that is, I might sound a little pushy and combative, like suck it up, kid, and stop feeling sorry for yourself. But I want you to also feel my heart. I want you to also know that I empathize if you do feel stuck. I empathize with you if you do hate yourself. I empathize with you if you do feel ugly. Like I I've been there. I'm sure I'll go back there at times again with you in this lifetime. But I want you to know that even though I can feel your pain, I love you enough to tell you you don't have to stay there. You don't have to be there. You don't have to make your identity be that poor little sad version of yourself that you've constructed, that there is something so much better. I am so grateful for guys like Joe Polish in my life, because anytime I'm feeling sorry for myself because my business isn't heading the direction where I want, or maybe we'll put out a big marketing campaign and it won't get the numbers and the conversion we're looking for, he'll just look at me and he'll be like, listen, did you think that this was going to be easy? Did you think that you were entitled to any of this money? Did you think that any of this was going to be spoon fed to you, kid? And he's just been like an older brother kicking me in the ass at times. And yet he's also there when he knows that the kick in the ass is not going to help. He also knows, when to be a gentle, loving stand and say, hey, I see something in you that right now you can't because you're in a dark space. Just follow my voice, hear these turn-by-turn directions, see how it feels as you move in this right direction. And so I just hope to be that in your life, that I can love you and care about you and still want even something greater out of you.
Sean, I want you to plug your book before we wrap up, because I want to be respectful of your time. We've got about 4 minutes left. So talk about your book and any other resources that you'd recommend people would dive into, maybe 2 or 3 other books or podcasts or something that you think people should dive into that would help them update their beliefs, let go of beliefs and things in their lives that don't serve them, so they can move forward, take ownership, and get what they want out of life.
Can I point them to a resource?
Yeah, man.
Okay. So I would tell them to check out SeanStephenson.com. That's SeanStephenson.com. On that main page, you can sign up for what I call the Lucrative Society. And there I have a ton of free ebooks, free video courses, and audio courses. All you got to do is exchange your email, and then you get all that material. Because you got to start somewhere. You got to, one of the ebooks that I give away for that is it's called How to Stay Positive When Life Gets Crazy. Because it's easy to be positive when everything's going your way, but how can you be positive when the shit hits the fan? And that's one of the ebooks and courses that I give away. So I would recommend start there at SeanStephenson.com. My book is called Get Off Your Butt: How to End Self-Sabotage, Stand Up for Yourself. You can get on Amazon. And I'm very proud of that book because it came out almost 10 years ago now, and it's still in print in hardback cover, which means it's still selling. And it's in over a dozen languages, as you mentioned in the bio. That book breaks down some of my best techniques for pulling yourself out of those excuses, those fears, those insecurities. You can get on audible.com. I actually read it. I'm the narrator. I fought like hell to be the person that reads it in my voice, so it's genuine.
Good.
And a big part of this for the listener on the other end of this here is you got to get hungry and obsessed with your own growth and your own development. And maybe you're going to have to lose everything. Maybe you're going to go through a dark period. But if you stay true to your own growth, you will grow stronger and better on the other side of it.
Awesome. So let's wrap up on that note. I'm going to link in the pinned description below, guys, the website and the link to the Amazon book. Sean, I want to thank you again for taking some time out of your evening to hop on and do this broadcast. I'm grateful. I mean, holy shit. I can't wait to see you again at some point. I'm sure we'll get together. But thanks again, man.
It's my pleasure, brother.
All right. Take care.
See you, bud.
Peace.